depth charts that are officially out. There's a couple of surprises that we looked at on offense and defense. We'll talk about those coming up. Some of your mailbag questions you had for us. A couple good ones here. It's going to be a good episode here on the Locked On Browns podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on ELOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Hello, everybody. Tuesday, game week for your Cleveland Browns as the Browns get back to action today on the field before traveling tomorrow down to Florida for a Friday night preseason game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Your Locked On Browns host, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And, of course, the Barbershop 92.3, The Fan, Garrett Bush at GBush91, the show itself, Locked On Browns, follow back account. As many know, go ahead on over there. Everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen day in, day out. Appreciate you all for making this all your first listen, whether it is on your favorite podcast platform or, of course, available now on YouTube. Make sure you follow and subscribe to the show. 5-star ratings, written reviews, and, of course, on YouTube, make sure you have those notifications on so the latest episodes hit you as soon as possible. You know, as Garrett said and mentioned here, you know, in the open, with a game week, you get a depth chart, you know, always unofficial, but it kind of gives you maybe a little bit of an idea for me, maybe where the playing time could be handed out as far as, you know, Friday night in Jacksonville. First side we're going to do here a little bit on the offense, then we'll switch over to the defense here. Got a couple of decent listener questions we'll get into here in the third segment. I appreciate everybody, you know, for chiming in here, giving us some ideas here, stuff to talk about, you know, content that you guys want to hear. I think for me, and this is something I've been harping on a ton, Garrett knows it, all of you who listen to the show know it, is the fullback position. Look, for the first 2 years, the Kevin Stefanski regime, fullback was always listed as far as a depth chart is concerned. It's not that Johnny Stanton's name does not appear. He does appear as a second string tight end. But I've talked vastly about using tight ends in the fullback role, maybe going more H-back, you know, so to speak here. And for me, this speaks volumes, Garrett, as far as understanding, you know, you have skill players with capabilities. You put a fullback on the field, he's got one job. And it's not like, even if you throw him a bone, you give him a carry like they did Andy Janovich scoring the first home touchdown last year against the Houston Texans. Even if you go that route, Johnny Stanton, and I'm only saying Johnny Stanton's name here because he's technically the only one truly listed, you know, that you would think of as a fullback. You do this pecking order of skill players, and Johnny Stanton's name right now, Garrett, might fall 10th, might fall 11th, if not further down. You're putting a player on the field at a skill position. And look, you know, if you want to say fullback's not it is. He's a guy who's capable of having the ball in his hands. For me, it's a waste. It is an absolute waste because there are 5-6 other names that I would want on the field, also would want to give the ball to or throw the ball to in any given situation. And I think for Coach Stefanski, this is, you know, showing some, you know, evolving. And it's not like he didn't have success. I mean, the Browns running game speaks for itself over the last 2 years, coupled with that great offensive line. You know, eventually when you get to Deshaun Watson, you feel you're going to make a major upgrade at the quarterback position as far as skill, as far as talent and things you can do with your quarterback. It was just time. And, you know, for Coach Stefanski, it shows a lot of growth to admit, it makes some changes. Admit that you can maybe be better in some aspects. And for me, this is one of the first things, you know, that sticks out here is where you get 2 tight ends listed, you know, as far as starters with David Njoku and, of course, now third-year tight end Harrison Bryant.
You know, I think this has a lot to do with the indictment on Baker Mayfield to an extent. Sometimes I think Kevin Stefanski, and I've been critical of him in terms of what he's doing in his offensive play calling, but you have to also take in consideration that maybe he had to call plays and he had to use certain personnel groupings because of the limitations that he had at quarterback. You may have needed to have more, 7-man protections. You may have to keep tight ends in. Maybe you needed to run the ball with a fullback to establish the power running game because there were so many people in the box. And I think that has a little bit to do with the fact that Baker Mayfield was not able to get into the shotgun. And if you look at it, and you would think this was the opposite. People said, hey, put Baker in the shotgun gun. That's where he thrives at. That's where he does his best work. And if you that just wasn't true. Like if you go back and look at the statistics, if you go back and look at the charts of his throws, Baker Mayfield struggled when he was in shotgun. Baker Mayfield was predominantly when he was really moving and doing his thing. He was really a guy that was running the play action off the stretch, play action off the run game, and hitting some of those quick hitters where the linebackers are up at the line of scrimmage, and you got better windows, better passing looks, and you could roll them out, get them outside. But when it was obvious passing downs, and it was like, hey, it's 3rd and 10, and we need 11 yards. Baker Mayfield struggled mightily, and I might not add, not just last year, his whole career, even when he was not healthy or when he was healthy, he still would struggle in those situations. So for me, I'm encouraged to see it because now that you got Deshaun Watson, now you got a lot of other things going on, and I keep telling people, um, he likes Jacoby Brissett. Like there's this thing where people is just acting like Jacoby Brissett is the worst quarterback in the world. Like he's just we gotta put everything down and go get Jimmy Garoppolo. And I get why people are saying that, but this shows that Kevin Stefanski has a little faith in what this offense could be, even if Deshaun Watson isn't in there. He's still going to use 2 tight ends, Hooper and Njoku. And then he's probably going to be able to, bring in David Bell, who is behind. I think he's behind Donovan Peoples-Jones, and then Anthony Schwartz is listed as being behind being a high Amari Cooper. So, they'll probably run some gadget stuff and different things like that. But yeah, man, I'm encouraged to see that the fullback is being phased out of this offense. It look like we coming into the 21st century.
And maybe this isn't just necessarily fullback. Because look, I mean, you could put Kareem Hunt on the field, do a million things. You can spread him out wide. You can put him in a slot. You can, if you need to, use him as a fullback. And who knows? Maybe this is some of what Kareem Hunt was saying over the weekend. If you're going to use me in a variety of ways, could possibly increase my potential to be injured. So, of course, for Kareem Hunt, you want to do everything to make sure that you are taken care of going further. And you brought up the wide receivers. Donovan Peoples-Jones, obviously nobody's surprised there, listed as a starter. David Bell, Anthony Schwartz, who have missed time to this point, and again, unofficial depth chart, listed as your 2 second stringers. What this tells me is that these 2 young men, along with Donovan Peoples-Jones, are going to get a lot of run here. I think, at least maybe a quarter, if not more, on Friday night against the Jaguars. As many have bantied about whether or not the Browns should be in the market for a veteran wide receiver. And we've talked about this. It's not that they should be, could be, or would be, but it's about whether or not they don't want to bring in a veteran now to have him stand here and watch. And then guess what? Anthony Schwartz catches 2 or 3 balls on Friday night. David Bell catches 2 balls. Donovan Peoples-Jones catches a 27-yard pass. So you feel confident about that. Question's going to be, with giving Anthony Schwartz, David Bell, Donovan Peoples-Jones some playing time Friday night, the question is going to be is, do we consider a veteran wide receiver if we do not get production out of some of these guys on Friday night? Or because keep in mind, you keep in a veteran wide receiver today, he's not really, he'll participate in practice. He's most likely not going to play in preseason games. So you don't want to basically bring this guy in and now all of a sudden, have 3 younger players nervous about their confidence and where their playing time is going to be. So I'm really, really interested, Garrett, for Friday night to see Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Bell, and Anthony Schwartz.
Yeah, especially getting those guys back at practice. I want to see how far behind they are. I want to see be able to, and this is why. And I know we're not talking about this conversation. We might get into this as we go down on the line, but I'm excited to see those guys and what they can look like in a series or 2 with Deshaun Watson. To me, I'm playing Deshaun Watson the whole. Listen, if you want to, I'm playing him the whole half. Forget that. I'm gonna get a chance to see what we're gonna do, what we got. I'm gonna split some time with him and Jacoby Brissett, but I want to see what they look like under that spotlight, under that situation with having Deshaun Watson out there. So at least we can get some sort of idea what this offense would look like once Deshaun is able to get back on the field.
So just some thoughts here. Offensive side of the ball here. And again, look, this is names on paper. And, this is nothing that the Browns have to be stuck to or, and if you want to say this, it's the equivalent of it being in pencil. But just some interesting things. We'll see if it parlays to the way, playing time is divvied up Friday night. We're going to get to the defensive side of the ball here. That first unofficial depth chart released as the Browns are actually in a game week here, headed down to Jacksonville after practice on Wednesday to face the Jaguars. Friday night, got a couple of listener questions coming here as well in the third segment. Appreciate everybody being along for the ride here. Your latest Locked On Browns with your hosts, Garrett Bush and Jeff Lloyd. If you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs yet, you are depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. And guess what? There's a new flavor. You ready? Delicious, indulgent cookie dough. Covered in chocolate. That's right. Built has done it again. Let me introduce you to your new favorite cookie dough chunk puffs. Have a light and chewy texture. Real cookie dough chunks. And of course, they are covered in 100% real chocolate. All the joys of eating cookie dough without the hassle of making it. Plus, it's healthy for you. Cookie dough chunk puffs are only 160 calories, and they have a whopping 15 grams of protein in them. Run to Built.com to snag a box for you and the family. It will be the perfect treat. Or you can find a really smart, good hiding spot and just hoard them all for yourself. Like all Built Bars, the new cookie dough chunk puff is covered in 100% real chocolate. That means they are healthy and tasty. Chocolate-covered cookie dough with a light, fluffy texture. So good. What's great about Built is that all of their bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. Eat something that tastes good and is good for you. You are going to love the new cookie dough chunk puff. Whether you need a snack for your workout, a late night treat, or just to grab a quick bite, Built is the perfect protein bar, and they taste better than a candy bar. Ditch the calories, fat, and sugar. Grab yourself a Built Bar. Go to Built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Again, promo code LOCKED15.
Welcome back to the Locked On Brown podcast. G. Bush, Jeff Lloyd in the building. It's game week. Let's get it going, fellas. Let's get it going, ladies out there. It's game week. Hey, we're right to where we want to get to, man. Continue to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that notification bell because now it gets started. We're going to be able to get into some of this game stuff, and you want to get the best breakdowns that's out and available out in the Browns community. This is where you need to be at, man. You don't want to miss any of those breakdowns. We're going to have an opportunity to talk about what's going on on the field, in the Jacksonville game, and moving forward for every other game after that. So continue to support us, and thank you for making Locked On Browns your first listen of the day. We talked about offense last time. Let's get to this defense a little bit, Jeff. One of the things that really sits out to me is Taven Bryan. He is now listed. People talked about the defensive tackle room. For the defensive tackle room, I'll say this. It's a group that doesn't have any kind of name brand recognition. And I think the other guy that's next to him, Jordan Elliott, is going to get the first crack at this defense as well. So you got Taven Bryan, Jordan Elliott, and behind him, you see it running with the twos is Tommy Togiai and Perrion Winfrey. Now I'm gonna tell you what. I wouldn't even be surprised if you saw by the season those two groups of people flip flop. I would not. Tommy Togiai in for Jordan Elliott. He's gonna get. We've been saying his name for I don't know. It seems like for 4 or 5 years or whatever. And he's only been in the league for 3, but he's always a guy that we like him, we love him, we like him, and it's just like your Pro Football Focus grade is like a 60 something on your snaps, man. Uh, and I look at it from a standpoint. Perrion Winfrey, I was out at practice out there on Saturday, getting an opportunity to see him play. Hey, he did some nice things. I like his get off. I like his leverage. He was out there doing a couple of things that I really like to see. And from the takeaways from the defensive secondary is deep as heck. And I'm gonna tell you what, AJ Green, I mean, he just keeps making these plays, man. He just keeps making plays. The thing that jumps out at me by AJ Green is he's super long, super athletic, and he always is around the ball. Emerson made a couple of nice plays. Newsome in the slot looked pretty good. I liked everybody in that secondary. And when you look at it, there's a couple guys that stand out to me when you look at it. Denzel Ward obviously is hurt, but always understand right now when you're running a nickel package or your sub package, you're going to have three corners playing anyway. You're going to have Newsome playing in the slot. You're going to have Ward, and Greedy Williams just continues to keep making plays after plays. Like, he's just a dude that won't give up his position. And so we've been talking about everybody but Greedy Williams. But to me, there's not too many surprises on this depth chart. I think I think what everybody was trying to see is the D tackles, Taven Bryan, Jordan Elliott. Taki is a name we always skip over, just because he's a special teams guy, but he's like Greedy Williams. He just won't give up his position. So, and here's the thing and another thing that really hit me. I would not be surprised if Jacob Phillips is starting. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they have him as a slash with Anthony Walker. I think they gave Anthony Walker that slash out of respect. They said, "Oh, you're the heart and soul of the defense. You get people together to go out and eat food for the games and all that good stuff." But when it comes to this field game, I think it's a situation where Anthony Walker might have to take that backseat to Phillips. So, what are your thoughts on the Browns' depth chart defensively?
There's some really, really good points, actually, I think, there that you made. And I completely agree with you with the defensive tackle position. If they could have just said, you want to know what? Here's a list of names at defensive tackle. We have no idea who's first string, second string, or third string right now. We'll be completely honest with you. And we've talked about this many times. This is a room where the opportunity is there for anybody. Whether it is Taven Bryan, who knows? Maybe a new system. Maybe Joe Woods has got some ideas for Taven Bryan that they never had in Jacksonville. Who knows? So if he finds a way to shine, keep in mind at this time, Malik McDowell was here. And then all of a sudden we went into week one, Malik McDowell made a play or two. Week two, he made a play. And then it was all of a sudden, we'll start Malik McDowell and let's see where this goes, because all the potential he had ended up being your starting defensive tackle for almost all the entire 2021 season. So yeah, for any one of those guys, look, go out there and make a play Friday night in Jacksonville. And guess what? You have a pretty solid shot at being a starting defensive tackle for this team week one in Carolina. If there's another one to maybe disregard, and maybe it's a little bit of a different reason, it's certainly the cornerback position. We know where Denzel Ward is, and now keep in mind, we're not going to see Denzel Ward play a snap in preseason. I don't think, even if he was healthy, there's no reason for Denzel Ward to take a snap in the preseason. You know what you got. And the one thing that does give everybody a little pause and hesitation with Denzel is, gets nicked up at times. Well, easy way to solve that. Don't take any preseason snaps. Don't take any meaningless snaps. Case closed on that, of course. But then you just go to the rest of it. We know AJ Green's going to play for this team. We know Martin Anderson at this time being is going to play for this team. I think Greedy Williams is the guy that nobody wants to talk about because nobody wants to jinx it for Greedy Williams. And I think there's kind of it's just kind of like, oh, Greedy Williams. Because I don't think anybody wants to get too high. And then God forbid, Greedy has another flare up and then everybody, oh, well, I think everybody, is rooting for Greedy. But secretly doesn't want to mention him too much because God forbid, it comes back and, comes unfortunate for Greedy. Everybody's kind of understanding that, it's out of his control as far as, the ailment that Greedy Williams has. I mean, Greg Newsome, there's not enough superlatives for what we all think this second-year player and the potential of this second-year player is for the Browns. And I thought the Jacob Phillips / Anthony Walker thing was interesting. Could it just mean this? Anthony Walker's not going to play Friday night in Jacksonville, but Jacob Phillips is. I think there's probably a good shot at that. But it will make for a difficult scenario because Jacob Phillips, when he has been able to play for this team, he has played well. There's no denying that. He's certainly missed more time than he's been available. But when he has been available, he has been a solid player for this team. And for Anthony Walker, it's always a tough situation here. I mean, you're dealing with these two players, third-year player and Jacob Phillips, second-year player and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. And part of you is understanding that, the more help you give them as far as, dissecting film, reading interior linemen's tendencies to be able to make a play faster, to be able to beat a player to a spot to make the play, it's tough. And for a guy like Anthony Walker, you do get paid. You get paid well, but it is tough that you understand that you were working with guys who the franchise probably ultimately hoping takes your job. So that always makes for a tricky situation, a tricky scenario. And of course, we've talked a lot about the young players on this team, the rookies, but there are second-year players, third-year players that if they can take a step and show that they can be viable options for this Browns team on defense, as much as we think it's going to be great, it should solidify that it's going to be great, because there's going to be opportunities where you can take a great player off the field with confidence for a rep or two, make sure they're 100% when they get back out there. And not a lot of teams in the NFL have the luxury to do that, Garrett.
No, oh no, and that's where you win games, and that's what. And this year, if you're a football guy, right, man, this year is a year that you can watch the games and you can look at the chess games, man. You can look at how teams really go out and hammer out games. There's teams all over the league. I can think back in the history of the game where you got defensive matchups. You got teams that really attack you unorthodox in a way that no one really. I remember when the Patriots started using two tight end sets with Gronkowski and Hernandez, right? How they just changed their game. But then 2 years later, they started going with the Edelmans and the Wes Welkers of the world, the really small. Every guy was like a small slot receiver where it was a matchup on a guy they couldn't cover him. And then you take a look at what they've been able to do offensively to change their style all the time to fit what their personality is and what their personnel is. And so this year for the Browns, I'm gonna see I'm anxious to see the way Kevin Stefanski and Joe Woods deploy these playmakers and players that they have, because there's a lot of unique players that the Browns have with unique skill sets, really long and big corners, that can get hands on people, really fast linebackers that are able to evade blocks by just simply running around them or getting in position and just be like, oh, I'm way faster than you. A guard should never block me. You got a running game with 3, 4, 5 running backs back there that all do different things very well. So yes, Deshaun Watson won't be playing, but if you're a football fan, you're anxious to see the strategy that the Browns have and what they can do, because they got a lot of ball players, man.
No question. Potential of this defense, absolutely off the charts. To all the Ohio kids, good luck first week back to school. To all the Ohio parents, I hope you're all enjoying maybe getting a little more time in the house as the youngins are basically headed off to school. For the kids, hey, it's only expedite the time for you kids. And September 11th, when the Browns open the season in Carolina. Your latest Locked On Browns, Jeff, Lloyd, Garrett Bush, guiding you along here, just getting you primed, prepped for Friday night, and of course, September 11th. Look, guys, the last couple of years, heck, maybe even some of you people your entire life, look, level with me. We've all been in a situation at some point in our lives where we're a little light on cash. Maybe you could only afford to put a few gallons of gas in your tank, or you got another save the date and wondering how in the world you're going to afford a wedding gift. That's where Dave can help. If you are living paycheck to paycheck or struggling to make ends meet, it can be really stressful when unexpected expenses come up. Something breaks in the house. Well, now Dave can help you get out of a pinch when you really need it. Dave is the banking app that can help you get up to $500 instantly with extra cash. That's more money to fill your tank, buy a wedding gift, or catch up on bills. You can finally tackle those expenses that have been stressing you without any hangups. There's no interest and no credit check needed. Millions of people have already downloaded the Dave app to get the financial relief they need with extra cash. So if you're in a pinch and need some extra help, download Dave and think of it as a helping hand from future you. Download the Dave app from the App Store right now. That's DAVE. Sign up for an extra cash account and get up to $500 instantly. For terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. Instant transfer fees apply. Banking provided by Evolve. Member the FDIC. Future you will thank you.
We back at Locked On Browns podcast. Thanks everybody for checking in with us. Make sure you follow us at GBush91 and Jeff at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. Game coming up this Friday, going down to Jacksonville.
We can just shut up about everything for 3 hours and just watch some Cleveland Browns football, Garrett. That is what I am most excited about.
Heck yeah. That's the part that I think a lot of people are going to be excited about. We're not doing tabloid season anymore. We're not doing investigations anymore. Let that part play out. They'll get to it when they get to it. But we get the chance to see blocking and tackling and guys catching the ball and getting after it out there. And that's going to be a sight for sore eyes for a lot of people because it's been a long ass off season. Oh my gosh, between Baker and Deshaun and then the holding out and then
I feel like I
all
went from 47 to 57 over the last 7 months.
man, shoot. But we about to get to it. So let's get to our mailbag. We got a couple questions that was submitted by the people out there that has had a couple questions for us. And we always say, listen, if you got any questions, we'll definitely answer them. We encourage you to send your questions over here, and we'll definitely get to them. Jeff, we got a few of them today. What are they?
This one, and look, this is, just go straight to Garrett and I. It is, how would you handle the Kareem Hunt situation? And look, yes, there's certainly many layers to this, but for me, and this is probably, and this seems what the Browns have done here to this point is, you handle a situation like this, and it's not just about Kareem Hunt. It's about the future Kareem Hunts. It's about future players who will play for you. It's about free agents who will eventually come to you. How do you handle your own? Kareem Hunt has been nothing but a model citizen since he's been here. Look, Kareem Hunt could certainly at any time could have created a stink and said, you want to know what? I once had 1,800 total yards in this league. I deserve a bigger piece of this pie. As far as any of that goes, Kareem Hunt has been the model citizen teammate in the locker room, in the media, on the field. For me, I'm going to find a way, and I'm going to put another year on the deal if I am allowed to do this. I'm not giving him 9. I'm not giving him 10. If he would like the comfort of knowing that whatever he's getting this year, he at least has coming to him next year, and then the year goes well, the Browns look to trade him, move on from him. One of these where you tell the player, hey, go find your own deal. Because look, the Browns are pretty much committed to let Kareem Hunt walk out the door for nothing. So I don't think the Browns would be too difficult as far as any compensation they could get back. But this is a move, and it's not just about Kareem Hunt. It's about future players on this roster. It's about potential free agents looking at how you do business. I've got to satisfy a guy who plays the most physically demanding position in the game with the highest potential injury risk. I got to do right by him because it's going to speak volumes to other guys in that locker room and to other potential guys who will eventually consider coming into this locker room.
I'm with you. I was looking at the situation and I was trying to figure out what I thought and where I would go. But I just keep telling myself, one of the things that the Cleveland Browns need to do is if you're not going to have your quarterback, you need all your pieces and parts. And no disrespect to Dearness Johnson. I think he's a nice back. He could start a lot of other places. He's not Kareem Hunt.
He's just in a terrible position, Dearness Johnson. That's all. He's in a really, really, really bad spot. What I'm saying? He's like the third best of supermodels. Guess what? Well, it's not a bad spot to be, but
it
that's
works
where you
out,
are.
right? So I think you need, to me, you're going to need the fact that you need Kareem Hunt's skill set, especially the way he catches the football, especially the way that he's able to block. He can run the ball. He could do a lot of different things. And to me, if I can give him $1 million or a couple $1 million to keep him around for next year, even just for the sake of saying, I need this guy when I do get Deshaun Watson, because then I'm going really all in. Like next year for the Cleveland Browns, their job is to do what I think that they should do. They should make sure that they got all guys, all chips in, and make sure we can get the roster back, especially if Deshaun Watson suspended 10, 12 games or whatever the case may be, or a whole year. I do what I can to get him back and see if we can not extend him out and see what we can do.
Again, it's not a move just about Kareem Hunt. It's about a move of a statement to potential 52 other players in that locker room and anybody who's potentially viewing you as a place they would like to play one day. Do you think there is a potential fine amount? And this comes from now, when the NFL released their statement about going and trying to, have this, decision from Sue Robinson appealed. When you list demands and you're trying to get something accomplished, what do you normally do? You normally shoot first with what you want the most. The way this was worded was fine, therapy, then more time suspended. So with the wording of that statement the way it was, Is there, Garrett Bush, in your opinion, a monetary amount fine-wise that the NFL would be comfortable with to keep this suspension at 6 games? Who even knows with the amount of checks he's written? I mean, Deshaun Watson, I mean, if he gets fined big by the NFL, he might actually have to ask for a little bit back, Josh Gordon style back in the day.
Here's what I would do. And this is a great question. I would go to him and say, for instance, for the next 6 years, he's getting $240. So say he's getting like $44 million a year. If he goes to him and says, look, one of the largest fines in the history of the game is Dan Snyder. He got $10 million. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna give you half of that. He got 10, I'll give you 5. I give you 5 and we call it a day. $5 million, and we could keep it moving. I'm willing to negotiate from 5 up to 10, but what I'm basically saying is I'm willing to give up half my salary, because if he's getting, 20-some million or whatever the case may be, if you give up 10 up to $10 million and keep it moving, I think the NFL says, okay, we might do something like that, because that's the largest fine. Now, would a Players Association like it? No, because that would mean, wow, like that's the biggest unprecedented fine we've ever seen, and it kind of sets you up for a no-win situation if somebody else gets in trouble. But I think if it's upwards of that $10 million mark, they might consider it.
How about we go years of Deshaun Watson's contract with the Cleveland Browns? And here's what we say. $1 million, $1.5 million per season on that contract that he is currently on. And it goes to a foundation set up, a support group foundation set up for victims of sexual assault. So for every year, Deshaun Watson is on this contract with the Cleveland Browns, and hey, maybe every year of the rest of Deshaun Watson's time in the NFL, that type of monetary donation to a set up, charity, support group, 501c3 agency for victims of sexual assault. Hey, if it turns out to be $15-20 million, hey man, sometimes got to pay the piper. But who knows? I mean, for the NFL, the way they listed it for me definitely seemed a little bit confusing. But either way, this should be something that Deshaun Watson and his camp should strongly be considering. And it would probably go a long, long way for, again, if it doesn't seem like there's been a lot of remorse shown from the Deshaun Watson side for whatever wrongdoing they feel was involved here. But I think that would go a long way towards saying, hey, maybe here's a guy who, probably starting maybe to get it.
That may do it. But you never know. Maybe the NFL says,
NFL can be like a dog with a bone sometimes, man.
Screw that. We're not doing that. You're about to get we're gonna give you a fine regardless and make you reapply. So, we'll see. But I think that's I like the question. I think you're thinking outside the box, and at least I like the thought process to see if we can kind of get this thing to an end.
No doubt about it. So, thanks, guys. Appreciate that. Look, we'll see the way the season goes here. And obviously, we've always kind of had a normal setup, the way we handle game week here. Look, if we find a way and, we want to do a separate, just basically, Twitter edition style to get your guys' thoughts and involvement here in the show, we're all for it. We'll see the way things play out. Who knows? Things go great. You guys might want a ton of us. Things aren't going so good. Sometimes they have in season past. Maybe see me and Garrett's face, and maybe the old mute button might come on out. All fun and games, though, of course. Garrett Bush, part of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday on YouTube. To say they are crushing it is an absolute understatement. It's been an incredible beginning. Keep in mind, really had a little Cavalier talk, a little draft talk, a little Guardians talk, not much Cleveland Browns talk, and certainly whatever Cleveland Browns talk they've had to this point certainly hasn't been in, that much of positivity. We'll see absolutely the lengths that this show is going to go to as we get into the Cleveland Browns season. So if you're not, make sure you subscribe to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show on YouTube. Of course, notifications on as well. The Barbershop 92.3, The Fan, always on Saturday mornings. other stops along the way, surprise openings of the barbershop with Garrett on the Fan. Make sure you're following at GBush91 as well. Myself at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. The Twitter account for the show at Locked On Browns, follow back account, as you guys all know. Appreciate everybody who takes the time out to make Locked On Browns their first listen, whether it is in traditional podcast form on your favorite platform, or of course, YouTube, 5-star ratings, written reviews, again on YouTube. Make sure those notifications are on. So as soon as the show is released, you guys got it all up in your ears. We'll be back again tomorrow, starting to prep more for a Browns game on Friday in Jacksonville versus the Jaguars. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on the LOB. Let's go Browns.